Let me show you. Today is a good day because we have peace, okay? Me and the Mad Queen have peace, okay? She decided she's not going to tear it down because you look at this. This is the camera. She can break it down. I hope she does not. Let's hope, okay? You and me, let's cross our fingers that she does not. Hey, I'm just an idiot who loves to read books. If you are, consider subscribing, okay? Let's go. Let's delve into this particular video. I want to do you a service, okay? A public service announcement. How can you spot when the diversity in a particular story that you are reading or a particular movie that you are watching is there not for authentic reasons, but it's there as a marketing gimmick, okay? Because quite a good number of people who are famous and quite a good number of corporations, that are massive, use diversity oftentimes as a marketing gimmick to get you to buy their damn product. But it's all the devil's work. It's all a trick, it's all BS, and they all want your money. So today I'll do you a public service announcement so how so you can completely spot these thieves and you can stop them. And you can stop them with a freaking stick and you can slam them in the head. Or basically you could take the Mad Queen and throw the Mad Queen at them, and the Mad Queen would basically tear their face off. And why you might want this? Why would you want this? Okay, why would you want proper diversity? Because do you want to pay your money, spend your money, and then you get shit product for it? No, I believe that for your money, you deserve the best product possible. You understand? I really believe that it's capitalism. It's absolutely capitalism. So you don't want to give your money to a shitty cunt who's just using the whole shtick as a trick to get your money. Someone who's trying to trick you with diversity. Okay? So there you go. I really think that people should be educated about this, and I really think that it is a useful thing to know, okay? Because it means what you can always spot when someone is being a scammer about this particular topic, okay? So, I don't know, let's go. Okay, let's delve into the first big red flag. The first big red flag, you can see it by actually reading or observing a book like American Dirt, okay? American Dirt is this book by Janine Cummins, and it was basically Janine Cummins is a white woman. She wrote this particular story depicting migration from Mexico to the United States through the southern border, okay? Now, this book was met with a huge, insane backlash. Why? And first of all, it's important who had the backlash. The backlash, was it from people like me who are not Mexicans, or was it from Mexicans? Now, here's the crucial bit. The backlash, it was completely from Mexicans, okay? And so the biggest red flag is that natives or people who have had the experience, let's say the diversity in this particular case, it's not cultural, it's, let's say, queer, okay? Or it's depicting mental illnesses. So the natives or the people who have had the experience, they are actually talking negatively about the book and pointing out that it's a badly written book because of all the inaccuracies in it. I will show you a particular review from American Dirt, this book by Janine Cummins. She wrote the book and it was met with the huge backlash that I've just mentioned. And there were so many reviews that were pointing out this particular dichotomy and this problem. So let me read you one particular review. So this review is from David, and it's actually at the top of the reviews. Later into the review, toward the end actually, the very end, he says, "Let me be clear, because American Dirt contains multiple inaccuracies and distortions. The white United States readership in particular will come away with a stylized understanding of the issue from a melodramatic bit of literary pop that frankly appears to have been drafted with their tastes in mind, rather than the authentic voices of Mexicanos and Chicanas. And that is the rub. White folks and other non-Mexican Americans in the United States, you cannot judge for yourselves whether American Dirt is authentic. You are going to have to trust Mexicans and, Chicanus folks. I know that runs counter to the upbringing of so many. I know it defies our national discourse. That's, too bad. So there you go. this is the first big red flag, okay? It's that you, someone who hasn't had the experience or someone who is not native to the culture that is being depicted, you don't have a problem with the story, but that's because the plot and the representation, the plot and the presentation, it all looks clean. Like American Dirt, the plot is, fine. And also the prose, Janine can really write good prose, okay? So to the general public who are not Mexicans, who are not familiar with the culture, it looks good, okay? It looks actually good. If you look at the reviews, that book, American Dirt, is actually well reviewed. It's a very highly critically acclaimed book. It was even on Oprah. But those are non-natives. They are not familiar with the culture. Therefore, they cannot really dictate whether the depiction is good or bad. So, if you want to know if the diversity here is good or not, and whether it's just basically there as a marketing gimmick, you can determine this stuff often by looking at the reaction of natives or people who have had the experience. This will actually give you a hint. Another book that I can actually give you an example of that I'm aware of, which I have read actually, this one, is Storm Dancer by Jay Kristoff. This book terribly, hijacks the Japanese culture, and it uses the culture of that people as a marketing gimmick. It really terribly misrepresents them. And also, number two, the research was terribly done. It was just basic Wikipedia to a point where people literally spotted this in the book. The people read the book, they spotted Wikipedia in there. Like, they could sniff it out. Okay, it wasn't direct one-to-one copy, of course, because Jay Kristoff is an author. He wrote, he paraphrased. Okay, basically he just paraphrased. But his extent, or at least the extent of his research, has always been Wikipedia. I'll read you actually another review by a girl called Crystal, who is herself Asian. So she says, it really set my teeth on edge when all along this book was heavily marketed as kind of like a book set in some sort of alternate history version of Japan with an added splash of fantasy and steampunk. Only it's really a Japanese-inspired story set in an alternate world. The Japanese elements of this story are so heavily borrowed to create a world just like Japan that I am super critical. I didn't know until later, but it really upset me that the extent of the author's research was only via Wikipedia and by watching anime. Really? Really? Even when I had essays for my Japanese literature classes, I did extensive research by reading the original source material, looking up the author's ideology and how it showed up in his work, the social and political climate at the time, and even went through books that had critical commentary on the literary movement's novels. And that's just an essay. Seriously? Seriously? My culture and heritage is not something you can surface skip through a 5-minute, perusal of links on Wikipedia and splash something together and say it's a great homage to it. No. So you see, the natives are always pissed by the damn thing, okay? Because they know the complete image. They know how badly, you messed up. And it means if you see a story that was marketed as a diverse story representing another culture or aspects of other cultures, and then you see the natives of that particular culture pissed off and, saying that the story is shit and there are so many inaccuracies, you have to trust them because those people have literally spent decades more interacting with that culture. Imagine, like, let's say if you're an American, what if I were to dictate to you, what America is? Like, I have never been to America, so it would not really make any sense. But what if I wrote a story about America by just researching in Wikipedia for one day and then splashing together just some shitty book? You would notice. You would know, okay? You would absolutely know. And this is the point. This is absolutely the point. History, okay? And I'm talking about the author's history, okay? This is the author's history because take a look at Disney, for instance. They have a history of taking other people's cultures and ripping that culture off and just having surface level or complete stereotypes or misconducts like that. And you can take a look at J. Crystal, for instance, the same author, Storm Dancer, I just read you the review of by Crystal. Well, that same author wrote Nevernight. And you can guess, well, that book was really slammed down by a lot of people to an extent where he had to issue an apology. I, in fact, talked about that particular apology, and I dissected it, and I actually, showed how to not apologize in that particular video, because it was really a shitty apology. It was terrible politics. Jay Christoph doesn't have an understanding of politics, man. So it was just something so basic that he messed it up. Anyhow, so the second red flag is history. Now, I believe that people can change. You can change. If you make a mistake, if you apologize, I'll be perfectly happy to forgive you. But if someone did it one time, and then let's say someone like Jay Christoph, he did it with Storm Dancer, that book sold very, very well. So he did it before and he got away with it. Okay, now he's more inclined to do it again. Okay, this is what I mean. So if the author is famous and then they have a history of doing this shit, or if the corporation is very successful and they have a long-lasting history of doing this shit, like Disney, well, guess what? You need to make sure you have to completely be aware and be critical and look up resources where natives are talking about this particular story, so that you can determine whether it's diversity as a marketing gimmick or proper diversity. Let's delve into the last point that can help you, or the last red flag that can actually help you spot diversity being used as a marketing gimmick. This one is a little more controversial, but pay attention to whether the person is native or not. Okay, because you see, let's say you are trying to depict another culture. Okay, let's simulate this. What is ahead of you? First of all, you have to understand an entire group of people. If you are going into it assuming that it is easy, well, you have just made the mistake of assuming that understanding hundreds and hundreds of years of history and behavior is easy. It means that you are really going into this with a naive mindset, A, or B, you're someone shady. I am assuming that you are a good person and you're not going into this as a, marketing gimmick. You're going into this to understand. So how much work is ahead of you? How much work is ahead of you? Is it little amount of work or is it a lot of work? Well, you know the answer. It's very obvious. There is a lot of work ahead of you. As an artist, there is so much work ahead of you. What does that mean? You have to put in excessive effort to understand another culture well, or you have to put a lot of effort, interview people who have had the experience you are trying to depict. Okay? Either way, it's a lot of work. Whenever something requires a lot of work, statistically speaking, there is a dropout. There is a dropout percentage. Okay, the odds that people get wrong, something that takes a lot of effort wrong, are much higher, and it's very obvious. It's intuitive. I don't even have to give any freaking studies or statistics or any of that. We know the more difficult something is, the greater the dropout number. Okay, exactly. So it's just more statistically likely that if you haven't had the experience, or if you're not native, you're just going to mess it up. Statistically, it's just much higher. I'm not saying that you will mess it up, but I'm saying statistically it's much higher. Let's take a look at someone like Brandon Sanderson with depression and Caladan. Caladan, suffers from depression. The depiction of depression with Caladan is so beautiful, but it took Sanderson a lot of work to do this. And Sanderson, he is someone who cares about his art. So to him, he wasn't really bothered by the work involved. Sanderson has never ever been bothered by the work involved, as is evident by his entire career. He's always been crazy. He has always been doing the maximum amount of work possible. Yes, so someone like Brandon Sanderson, it's beautiful. You get to see someone who has really not had depression, I'm assuming, write depression beautifully. In other words, he wrote an experience that he did not have beautifully. That's amazing. That's an artist who really put in the work and who respects his own art. But what we are talking about are charlatans, okay? These assholes, these cunts who use diversity as a marketing gimmick. So they'll take your money, they'll trick you with it, and they'll give you a shitty product for your money. Number two, they are far more likely to get it wrong because they are just looking to, sort of fake it until you make it. Someone like Sanderson, does not fake it until he makes it. He does it until he makes it. There is a difference. And so what I am trying to tell you is that I do believe that you can write about whatever you want. You can write about my own culture. But ultimately, you are statistically far more likely to mess it up if you are a charlatan. It means if someone who hasn't had the experience is depicting this experience in the story, careful, okay? Look it up and, check the damn natives or the people who have had the experience and, do your research and get to know whether this depiction is okay or bad. All right? So it's that simple, it's that easy, it's that intuitive, because they are more likely to mess it up due to the reality that they are going into this as a charlatan, as someone who is trying to fake it until they make it, or until they make it to your wallet, okay? So this has been a public service announcement. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Tell me down in the comments below what you think, or if you would like to add any more points, go ahead, do that. Have a nice day.